Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Understanding Adobe Photoshop. I'm your host, Rich Harrington. Today, we're going to take a look at a feature that allows you to customize the Photoshop interface, and that is Workspaces. Now, a workspace allows you to make a custom arrangement of certain panels and tools, so if you need them for a particular task, they're right there. For example, you might use one workspace for color correction and another for type work. Let's see how they work. Now, there's a couple ways to access Workspaces. One way is to choose Window, Workspace, and you'll see a default list here. Now, there are three workspaces listed up top: Essentials, which is the default, Basic, and What's New in CS4. These three workspaces do affect the actual menus. So when you choose these particular workspaces, your menus are going to adjust. The Basics workspace actually trims the menus in Photoshop so far fewer things are visible. So let's go ahead and choose Basic for a moment here. It warns us that it's going to actually change menus and keyboard shortcuts. Yes. Now, when we look at the image mode, you'll see that not all of the image modes are listed. For example, things like duotone are no longer there, or multi-channel. Most notably missing is the CMYK workspace. This Basics menu is really meant to trim Photoshop down for a new user so they cannot access as many tools and it's not as intimidating. For what we're going to be doing, I'd like you to stay in the Essentials workspace most of the time because we're going to be using those features, a lot of the more powerful things that are certainly well beyond the Basics. If you are in the Basics workspace and there's something that you think should be there but you're not seeing it, just choose Show All Menu Items, and the menu will expand. And that gives you all the options for the menu. However, if you click off the menu and return to it, it goes back to its truncated state. This could get quickly annoying, so make sure if you don't want to be in this Basics workspace that you switch out of it pretty quickly. You can then choose Window Workspace, What's New in CS4. This workspace will color code everything that's actually new. And you'll see here that we have blue items indicating the new adjustments. Here we have Image Adjustments Vibrance, and this is a new item that's part of Photoshop CS4. Other things are color-coded blue to help you discover them as well. This is a great way when you first get the application to explore the latest features, and many of those are things that we're going to cover in our show. Since we're here, let's go ahead and adjust the vibrance in this image. This is a great adjustment, and you'll notice as we drag that details get a little more saturated. The nice thing about the vibrance adjustment, let's toggle the before and after, is that it respects the subtle tones in the image. When you make a vibrance adjustment, it's going to go ahead and increase saturation, but not cause a loss of detail. If we were to just drag the saturation slider over, you would notice that some of the finer details get lost. For example, the surface of this building just turns into really very oversaturated yellows, and a lot of the texture in the brick is getting eclipsed. You may use a little bit of saturation, but a lot more vibrance will really do the job nicely. Let's go back to Window Workspace, and we're going to go back to the Essentials, or the default workspace. Now, there's one more place you can access these workspaces, and that's over here on the right. We can click where it says Essentials and access several different presets. The Advanced 3D Workspace is for Photoshop Extended. If you're using the normal, standard version of Photoshop, you don't have access to those 3D tools that are there for specialty reasons. So if you don't see that in the list, don't be bothered. But the other ones should be there. The Analysis workspace is used for scientific type analysis, and it calls up certain tools like histogram and the information, and this really lets you look at channels and such. The Automation workspace is designed to help you speed up certain production tasks, and this is really going to bring the Actions palette front and center. We'll fully explore Actions, and it's covered in depth in the book, Understanding Adobe Photoshop CS4. This is because I want you to know how to save time. Actions are a huge time saver, and we'll look at them more in an upcoming episode. A couple more workspaces here that matter. Color and Tone is a great way to do color correction. You actually see the histogram, which is used for making color adjustments, and easy access to the Adjustments panel. So let's go ahead and click on the curve layer here, and we'll go ahead and put a little bit of contrast into the image. We'll add some medium contrast, and let's just pull that point down to make it a little bit richer in the brick area. And let's pull the skies down a little bit so they're not quite so overexposed, but open up the shadows. There we go. We want to see the before and after. Just click the eyeball, the original, and the new one. And you see how that workspace helped facilitate that work, because we could easily see the histogram, which you'll learn more about soon. Shows you the details of the image and the color, and great access to the adjustments panel, which made it a snap to fix the image a little bit more, get a little bit of contrast, and really make it more attractive. We have painting workspaces designed for doing painting touch-up, whether you're doing brushes and original artwork or things like cloning. The proofing workspace is going to allow you to do things not for spell checking, but for proofing images for final print. Our typography workspace brings out all of our type tools, including access to the character and the paragraph palette, as well as styles for adding things like bevels and glows and edges to our type. And this is great if you're going to be doing special typographic effects. Maybe you're designing a DVD menu or a full-screen graphic to use on a web page. This workspace helps facilitate that and will streamline the process by putting the tools you need right at your fingertips. Now, last things to finish it out, we have a video workspace that's designed for people who are doing video work. This will bring the animation timeline up at the bottom of the page. And you see we have things like cloning ability for healing our video, as well as our animation timeline that we can look at if we had a video clip loaded. And our final workspace is designed for web work, and it brings up swatches, text, and our layers as we design. Now, these are not limiting. If you have a particular configuration that you'd like to use, you can easily create your own custom workspace. Let's see how. I'm going to go ahead and reset back to the default workspace as a starting point, and let's make some quick adjustments. I like to have the layers panel visible, but I want to make some room here for a few more panels. Let's call up the navigator, which is an easy way to navigate within the image. And you'll see here we can quickly zoom in on part of the image, then move the red box to reposition our view. There we go. I'm going to grab the histogram panel and dock that to the bottom. And we'll just get rid of the info panel here. Notice everything closed. So we could bring that back. We'll just call up layers, and notice it all pops right back up. So that works pretty easily. Just click this little arrow here to actually dock it or switch between. There we go. Pull that off, and we can close it. Drag these to the side, and they'll actually connect. And you see that works pretty well. Let's go ahead and put these up here. We'll expand the histogram view so we can see all the channels. There we go. Expanded view plus all channels. That makes it a little easier. Drag this down so it's nice and clean. And now I could see all of the adjustments that I like to use when doing my standard workspace. I'll simply click and choose Save Workspace, and I'll give this a name. Hit the Save button, and you see it's added to the list at the top there, so it's easy to get to. This makes it simple to switch between. So if you have a particular arrangement of windows or panels that you need, as well as menus or keyboard shortcuts, you could do that quite simply and access them through this pop-up menu. It's either available in the upper right-hand corner or through Window Workspace, where you can quickly switch between the different options. I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Understanding Adobe Photoshop. We've got a great episode for you next week where we'll talk about quickly jumping to particular tools and how to easily switch between them. This is going to speed you up as you start to work in the program. My name is Rich Harrington. We have a wealth of resources on our blog at rastervector.com, where you'll find more than 100 video tutorials, lots of downloads, and free templates that you can use. And if you're a reader of our book, Understanding Adobe Photoshop CS4 from Peach Pit Press, be sure to download the lesson files so you can get hands-on with our podcast. Thanks again for joining us. I'll see you next week.